Hello, I'm Wava Carpenter of Design Miami. Today I'm speaking with Zesty Meyers of New York gallery R& Company. Zesty and his partner Evan launched the gallery nearly 25 years ago. Back then, they were specialized mainly in historical design objects, but things have definitely changed. Today, R& Company is one of the world's most powerful galleries for contemporary collectible design. R& Company has recently opened an ambitious exhibition called Objects USA 2020. This project celebrates and revitalizes a landmark exhibition of American studio craft, which was mounted back in 1969. For the new exhibition, R& Company is exhibiting 50 objects by makers from the first exhibition, alongside 50 objects from contemporary makers. Accompanying the exhibition is a social media initiative called With Our Hands, which invites makers from across the country to upload 15-second videos that showcase their hands in action. In other words, these videos show the makers in the act of making using artisanal processes. So Zesty, thank you so much for joining me today. For those who are unfamiliar with the original Objects USA exhibition, can you tell us what made it so important, even from today's point of view?
Sure. And thank you for having me. This is fantastic. I'm super excited. The original show came on the heels of the civil rights movement. Not oddly enough, not so uncommon to the exact moment of time we are in.
Right.
The curators set out across the country to find what is the fabric, what is the diversity of our country, what is our country of people of makers. And in the original show, they picked out, I think it was 253 makers. And back then you were in very strict sections: glass, metal, ceramic, very craft oriented or technically oriented titles.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is Johnson & Johnson, oddly enough, also very popular again today, bought the whole collection, all of it.
Wow.
And they kept 5% or so for themselves, which they still have in their corporate headquarters.
Oh, wow.
And the rest they gave away to the museums that showed the exhibition. The original exhibition ended up touring to 30 institutions for about 10 years.
Man, that's a lot.
It opened the Smithsonian, it opened the Renwick in DC. It was the first show there. It went to tiny museums across the country. It went to parts of Europe. It went to parts of it, even went to Japan. Nothing like this had ever happened for the makers in America and for the stories to be told.
Yeah.
And what emerged out of this was a group of collectability of what is American design or American craft at the time. There wasn't so much a divide between what is craft and what is fine art, as we found later on that eventually happened. What people started to see things they never saw, and people were maybe in the same ways they needed to heal. They needed to see how people made things, or the sensuality that comes from how things are handmade. And in the end, America doesn't have a national porcelain company. It doesn't have a national silver company. Maybe that is more of the older world of somewhere like Europe. And maybe this is going to be what is distinctly American of how things are handmade. And the show created amazing careers for a lot of people. And 5 decades later, some of them are even more popular today than what they were. And of course, some of them today are really ingrained in the fine arts world compared to the craft world. But they are craft makers.
Yeah. Who are some of the highlights from the original exhibition?
Ron Nagel, Renaud Tani, Sheila Hicks, Sam Malouf, Wendell Castle, the list goes on.
Amazing. So what made you want to revisit it and update it for the 21st century, and sort of what are the highlights from the current exhibition then?
So, why did it take 50 years for another show like this to happen is more of the question we started to ask ourselves.
Right.
Why wasn't the next generation up and coming through the ranks, through the gallery system, into perpetuity through institutions, and either some of the same set or a younger set of collectors? This sort of eventually failed and collapsed from the first generation and didn't really lead to this. When Evan and I started to really sell design in the later 90s, we started to talk about this and eventually started to get into contemporary design to make sure there was another generation. Evan and I were both makers ourselves, and we knew we could not do what this generation from the 70s did. That this was already coming down around us. Yes, we had careers, but not like they had. And I don't know why I can't prove why this happened, but I lived through it. And one of the goals that we set out for ourselves is to make sure that others would be able to have a better generation coming out from what we could do and how we could help educate, curate, sell, build collections.
Yeah, no, you've done so much for contemporary design. Who are some of the makers that people should look for in the current show, the contemporary makers?
Katie Stout is the ever expanding great career of Katie. Monique Pion, who is made this wonderful box with a meteor in it, and the story behind the meteor is incredible. There's Liz Collins and her textiles. There's
So
Joyce
beautiful.
Lynn, who is amazing in what she's discovered or how she's presenting. The list goes on.
So what about the With Our Hands initiative that you've launched on social media? Is like, how did you come up with that idea, and what have you seen so far as the response?
So one of the things we started to look at is and of course we all look at social media, but we realized that a lot of the channels on social media were stagnant in the same way that the original show was in the late 60s. I can go and find the glass channel or the glass people or the ceramic people. And there's more than one of these channels and they're fantastic. But for the same reason, why hasn't anyone put it and woven this all together between the metalsmiths, the glass, the textiles, and all of those types of people making things? What is the 20-year-old in Ohio at some university that I don't know doing, and why are they going to become interesting? And or some 80-year-old woman in New Mexico that's been making things for 60 years. It wasn't about us finding talent. I think it's about dealing with us as a country, as a wave of immigrants that have brought culture from far and wide, and then have been influenced by others that are around us to create something that is just that little bit more unique or different by studying things for thousands of years. And why not try to put them together? Why not get people on our platform in a way to help them feel better, to help them heal after the pandemic, maybe to help someone else heal that watches either a client, a curator, a writer, or hundreds of thousands or millions of people we don't know. Why not try to use connectivity in the sense of the design sphere compared to how music has captured it? And why can't the arts capture part of this?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard you mention before in talking about this exhibition that you're hoping to kind of foment a movement of a sort to kind of bring attention back to American craft. Do you see the With Our Hands initiative sort of helping bring that to be, or bring people together?
Yes, I mean, we're very early on in creating this. It's not even, it's just a week old,
Yeah.
right? I mean, literally we launched, but we've already been able to do something incredible that we've never been able to
Yeah.
do before. Joyce Lynn's video on TikTok presently has over 1.6 million views.
Wow.
I didn't think that was possible for design. I
Yeah.
would have never gone there. I couldn't have imagined that this would have happened. And subsequently, the other 12, or we've only put out 12 videos or so, have gotten thousands of views, most of them.
That's amazing.
So we've started doing something right, and hopefully it grows. I mean, I would love for that to happen again. I don't know if that is, but I would love for it to grow at the pace that thousands of people are watching each one of these videos. We can be effective that way of, like I said, from how to heal, but also how to encourage. Because
Yeah.
if we don't encourage a different generation, age is not the generation of means. The idea that I can, or I should, or that I have to is more of what we're looking for here as well. There's no discrimination, there's no judgment. We're not doing this to look for talent. We're
Yeah.
doing this to see what is actually happening.
I do
Um,
hope that people do see it as a opportunity to learn about new talent in the country, whether you take them on in your gallery or someone else does. I mean, I think it seems like a really nice opportunity for people. You know, the exhibition Objects USA is open in your gallery through July. So will you run With Our Hands that entire time?
we're hoping to run it much longer. It doesn't have to stop because it
Oh,
lives
that's great.
online.
Yeah.
Right? And hopefully it keeps generating and growing steam. And the idea, the next goal for Objects USA that we have is trying to function and do something during the pandemic is
Yeah.
to get the show to travel. And yes, we would then want the other institutions to show these videos, or if it's in a foreign country, to do it in their foreign country with our hands, Sweden or Britain or wherever it might end up going. So that way then we start to link the world after we link it to America. Because I think people their chemical makeup makes them have to make things. And so how many out of the 330 million people in this country, how many people actually make things? It's probably an astounding number.
Yeah, I'm sure it's much more than we get to see every day. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. I mean, it's a beautiful concept and I can't wait to see the videos that keep coming out. So thank you for talking to me today about it. And thanks to everyone else who took the time to hear about this great project.
Yep, please come join it. Look at us on YouTube, on TikTok or Instagram. Please follow. Thank you.
Thanks.